Hi everyone, Brett King here, Mercury Pro on the National Guard FLW Walleye Tour. It's my favorite time of year. It's early October, finally getting some coldness here in Minnesota. I've got ice in the back of the boat here. In fact, when I got in the truck this morning, it was 26 degrees outside, which means it's prime time to start pitching ringworms and plastics for walleyes. We're in Red Wing, Minnesota on the Mississippi River. We're about 5 degrees from what I consider to be prime time for the plastics bite. This is my first day throwing plastics this fall, so we're going to see what we got. I got a couple different setups going here. I've got what I consider my transition bait. As the water temperature cools, I like to switch from throwing hair jigs to throwing plastic. So when it's not quite there yet, I'll throw a setup like this, which is actually a hair jig with a very, very short version of a ringworm on it. We're going to target some riprap with that. The other one we're going to throw is just straight up ringworms, no bait. I don't use any bait probably from October until April on the river here. I don't like cold hands. It's cold enough when I'm out here fishing, so it's no bait for me. When I'm doing this, I run like a 6'8" to 7 foot fast action rod. I want to be able to get a good solid hook set when I get bit because they spit it out very fast, so you got to be on them. So I use a very, very extra fast tip, long rod, so I can get a good sweep on them. You'll notice I've got monofilament line on here when I'm pitching jigs because it tells me exactly when my jig hits the bottom faster than any other line I have ever found. You'll see I've got two different colors. I've got yellow and bright orange. What I do with that is different light conditions will show up better on each individual color line. You'll see the ringworm color I've got selected right off the bat, chartreuse pepper. This is probably my most consistent day in, day out color. If I was going to get stranded on an island and I had to fish for food, the one color I'd want with me for sure is chartreuse pepper. It catches just about anything in this river that swims. I know we'll catch some fish today. It might be some crappie, some drum. Hopefully get some walleyes on video doing this. We'll see what happens. It's my favorite, absolute favorite tactic to do when I'm walleye fishing, and I've got from now until April to do this. This is open all year up here. The power plant keeps it open. The water stays about 32 degrees all year, so you can get your boat in, and it's absolutely my passion. If I could throw jigs and plastics every day of the year, that's what I would do. Got something anyways. That's one of the cool things about throwing these ringworms. You get a lot of mixed bag of fish. I mean, this is a pretty nice crappie here for the Mississippi, and this thing cracked that ringworm pretty good. So, you know, it's not just walleyes you're going to catch. It keeps you pretty busy. Smallmouth variety. Here again, good multi-species tactic. We caught a little crappie before, actually pretty nice crappie. This is a pretty little smallmouth, but you know, this is kind of a bass tactic that we're employing for walleyes. But it is fun, multi-species. Giant Mississippi smallmouth. One of the things people have a hard time picking up on throwing these plastics and these ringworms in particular is they want to move that bait too much. If I know for a fact that my jig is not on the bottom, I absolutely just hold my rod still because that current is constantly working the tail on the ringworm. As it sweeps and falls along the bottom, the current's doing the work. And I do way better basically just hovering that jig than I ever do giving it a distinct pop. All I do is I wait for it to hit the bottom, I just pick the rod back up, reel a couple times, and hold it in a position where I know I can set the hook immediately. Species number 3 for the day. I get asked a lot a question about when I'm casting jigs and plastics is the jig head color, and personally it really doesn't seem to matter to me. I've never had a day where I felt like I had to be using an orange head with a chartreuse pepper ringworm or anything like that. Actually, for the most part, if I can get a hold of just plain lead head jigs, this is a hair jig here, but just a plain lead head is typically all I'll use. I've never found it where color actually seems to make a difference other than in the plastics itself. So I don't get caught up a whole bunch in the color of the actual jig head. Oh boy. Pretty much a twin to the other one. I was hoping it was a good thump like a walleye will do. Still on the drum. Got them pegged. Dang it. Just missing the one. Another crappie. Look how he ate that though. That's a crappie eating a walleye bait. I am doing a terrible job on the walleyes today, but we're getting the rod bent anyways. Catching a few nice crappies, some bass, some drum. It's not over yet. This is what happens when you miss one when you're pitching like this. I call it getting kind of pantsed. See how I kind of pulled my pants down like that? Grabbed the tail and I actually felt it basically stretch the worm out. And he just pulled it right down off the jig. Mr. Walter's got to show himself. That's what we're looking for. Unfortunately, the walleyes have been a little tough today. Almost non-existent, I guess, but well, that's a pretty nice smallmouth. Again, multi-species tactic. Took this hair jig Lucky Strike ringworm combo. Fall river fishing, you can't beat it. I'm Brett King, and this is Beyond the Basics. Looks like I'm fishing the wrong tour. Fun nonetheless. Bent the rod. That's a pretty good smallmouth.